They open Instagram, scroll through the feed for 15 minutes, close the app without posting anything, without commenting, without reacting, like they weren't even there, but they were. They always are. They have an account, maybe even a few hundred followers, but their last post was months ago, maybe years. It's not that they don't have a life. They go out, they travel, they laugh with friends. But when they take a photo, something inside them asks, why would I post this? And they never find an answer that feels true, so they don't post. They see people sharing achievements, birthday photos, gym progress, relationships, and they feel something strange. It's not envy, it's more like distance, like there's glass between them and the rest of the world. Other people live out loud, they live in silence. Sometimes someone asks, why don't you ever post anything? And they give a vague answer. Oh, I'm not really into it. I don't have time. I think it's stupid. But the truth is more complicated than that. The truth is they don't know how to explain it. They just feel like they don't belong in that space, like their lives aren't interesting enough, or like sharing would expose something that should stay protected. They observe, they watch stories, they see people's posts while lying in the dark, but they never appear. They're an invisible presence, a digital ghost, and somehow that feels safer. This didn't start with social media. This started way before, when they were kids and realized their voices didn't matter as much as others, when they shared something exciting and were met with indifference, when they learned that staying quiet was safer than speaking up and being ignored. Maybe they grew up in an environment where attention was competed for, where whoever spoke loudest won the space, where their emotions were too much, where they learned that expressing themselves was risky, so they stopped trying. Not all at once, gradually, like someone slowly erasing their own voice until it became a whisper. And they discovered something powerful. Invisibility protects. If they don't expose themselves, they can't be judged. If they don't share, they can't be ridiculed. If they don't ask for attention, they can't be rejected. So they learn to exist in the background, to be the friend who takes the photo but never appears in it, to be present but never centered, to be remembered but not noticed. And it worked. For a long time it worked. But something happened when social media exploded. Suddenly, everyone had to exist out loud. Everyone had to show themselves, sell themselves, validate themselves. And they looked at that and thought, I can't do this. Not because they're shy, but because something inside them refuses to perform, to turn their lives into content, to ask strangers for validation. So they stayed silent, and the digital world moved forward without them. They noticed that over time, people stopped thinking about them, not out of malice, but because they don't show up. They're not in the stories, they don't comment on photos, they don't mark their presence, so slowly they become optional. Friends make plans and forget to invite them, not because they don't like them, but because they're not visible, they're not on the radar. And when they realize this, it hurts in a silent way. Because they know that if they were more present online, maybe they'd be more remembered in real life. But they can't change, because that would require being something they're not. They start seeing themselves as someone with nothing interesting to say. They see people with thousands of likes and think, they know something I don't. They have a life worth showing. And theirs? Theirs is ordinary, private, small. At least that's what they believe. They don't realize the problem isn't their lives. It's that they learned a long time ago that their lives don't deserve attention. And now they carry that as absolute truth. They have friends, they have family, but still they feel alone because they never share what they really feel, never ask for attention, never say, hey, I'm here, see me. They function, they work, they laugh, they answer messages, but inside there's a part of them that's always watching, never truly participating. And that's exhausting, more than they admit. Here's the hard part to hear. They don't avoid social media because they don't like it. They avoid it because they're afraid. Afraid of not being enough. Afraid of being ignored. Afraid of exposing who they are and finding out nobody cares. Invisibility isn't a preference, it's a protection. And they learn to protect themselves so well that now it feels natural, feels like part of who they are. But it's not. It's an adaptation, a response to pain they never fully processed. And the hardest part, they're perpetuating the same pattern that hurt them. When they don't show up, they're not seen. When they're not seen, they confirm the belief that they don't deserve to be seen. It's a cycle, silent, automatic, and extremely hard to break. Because breaking that cycle would mean taking a risk. Risk being vulnerable, risk being ignored again. And they already know how that feels, so they prefer to stay where they are, where it's safe, where nobody can disappoint them, because nobody sees them. But something needs to be said. The absence from social media isn't failure. It's not weakness. It's not being behind in life. It's a way of existing that prioritizes depth over visibility, that chooses real connections over numerical validation, that protects intimacy in a world that demands constant exposure. And maybe, just maybe, this way of existing is exactly what the world needs. Not people performing happiness, but people who actually feel. Not voices shouting to be heard, but presences that remain, even in silence. The question was never whether they should post or not. The question is, did they choose this or was it chosen for them? Because there's a difference between chosen silence and imposed silence, between privacy and shame, between being at peace with yourself and hiding from yourself. And only they can answer that. Only they know if invisibility is freedom or prison, if it's peace or fear disguised as indifference. But here's what matters. They have the right to exist the way they exist, without needing to justify it, without needing to change, without needing to prove their life is worth something. Because it is, even if nobody sees it, even if nobody comments, even if nobody knows. Their life doesn't need to be shared to be real, doesn't need to be liked to have value, doesn't need to be seen to matter. And if one day they choose to show up, let it be because they want to, not out of obligation, not to prove anything, but because they feel like it. And if they never show up, that's okay too. The world doesn't need to know everyone. Some people are meant to be a mystery, to be felt, not exposed, to exist in memory, not in the timeline. And there's nothing wrong with that. They closed the app, without guilt this time, without that feeling of missing out, because they realized their life has always been happening. It just wasn't being filmed. And maybe that's the most honest thing anyone can be.